This episode of the Marketing One podcast is sponsored by Riverside.fm, the leading platform to record studio quality podcasts from anywhere. More than 70,000 other podcasts use Riverside, including myself, the Pivot to Balance podcast, Gary Vee, and companies like Spotify and even the New York Times. What's amazing about Riverside is that when you are recording a podcast or remote interview, recording is independent of Wi-Fi stability, which is huge because content is recorded locally, which ensures reliable and uncompressed content quality. It's basically a studio inside your browser, and it is super intuitive and easy to use. Once your recording is done, you'll automatically be able to download separate audio and video tracks and edit your content with a few clicks. Riverside.fm also has Magic AI, which helps you create videos for TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels. So if you haven't yet given Riverside a try, visit riverside.fm and use my code AK15, which is AKAY15, to start recording studio quality sound and video and get 15% off of a membership plan. Now, let's dive into the episode. Hey, before we dive into this week's episode, do you mind taking 5 seconds of your time to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform? It will really help other people find this podcast, and I would also love your feedback. Thank you for taking the time, and now let's dive into the episode. Hello and welcome to the Marketing Women podcast. I'm your host, Anusha Khanna, and it's great to have you here. Are you looking to move into marketing or want to learn marketing from scratch? We discuss all things marketing, analytics, business, personal branding, and much more in a way any layman can understand. If you're new here, make sure to follow along and get on that email list by visiting anushakhanna.com/email list. Follow at AnushaRK on TikTok, tag us on your stories, we'd love to see that. Now let's dive in. In today's episode, we are going to talk about an important topic that I've been focusing on these last couple of weeks. This also ties into my bi-weekly catch-up because I have been trying to learn a lot about data privacy and ethics in customer analytics. I do work in customer analytics, and I've always been very fascinated and sort of confused about the privacy that comes along with it, especially in marketing when you take into account there are so many laws that are protecting people, rightfully so, for their data that they're giving us. And let's go and see what that is all about. First of all, why data privacy matters. So for example, imagine you're shopping online for a new pair of shoes. You can browse through various websites, you select your favorite design, you add them to your cart, and as you continue shopping or exploring other sites, something interesting is happening in the background, which is the websites are quietly collecting data about your preferences, what you're looking for, or even your past purchase history. We've talked about customer journey before. How do they look at their touch points? They're tracking you. All the data that is collected during your online shopping journey, from your shoe size to your color preference, all of those things are your personal information. And protecting this data is crucial because some people misuse the data that they have. It can be unauthorized access to your accounts or even identity theft. There are multiple regulations in place that protect customers for the data that they're giving you or a company. The most prominent ones that I have seen so far is the GDPR and CCPA regulations. And let's understand what these two regulations are. These two regulations are like your guardians. They're trying to protect your personal data whenever you interact with any businesses online. They have strict rules on how companies can handle customer data to make sure that they're treated with care and respect. So GDPR was introduced in European Union and CCPA is specific to California. They play a major role in protecting your data privacy rights, especially in a world where we're collecting cookies and all of that. So GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation, which is sort of a landmark regulation, again, introduced by the European Union. So it gives you more control over the personal data, and you have the right to know what data a company has about you and how it's being used. So you can always request a company to provide you with information about the data that they've collected on you. It also grants you the right to request that your data be deleted if you're no longer comfortable with the company having it. And this is called the right to be forgotten. The whole point of this is to make sure that you have control over your digital footprint and you protect your privacy. One of the main aspects of GDPR is consent. So businesses must actually obtain clear and explicit consent from individuals before collecting their data. So this means that before they ever collect any data from you, you should be informed of why it's being collected, how it will be used. Whenever you give them, say, your name, your email ID, your phone number, they're supposed to tell you what they're going to do with that data. They're going to tell you how they're going to protect it, and they'll tell you, contact us if you don't want us to have your data anymore. Whereas CCPA is a California Consumer Privacy Act. And again, it's a very important data privacy regulation, but this is specifically aimed at residents of California. CCPA is, again, giving them more control over their personal information. But you may ask yourself, why do we need CCPA when we have GDPR? The difference is, since this GDPR is a regulation that was established by the European Union, and it primarily applies to EU citizens' data, CCPA is specific to the state of California in the United States. So it is designed to protect the privacy of Californian residents, and it focuses on regulating businesses that collect and process the personal information of California residents, regardless of where those businesses are located. So GDPR has a more global implication. It doesn't cover residents of California specifically. So CCPA is a state-level regulation, while GDPR covers an entire regional block. And so why California? You can ask yourself, why California? From what I have researched, is California, being one of the most populous and economically significant states in the U.S., decided to enact its own data privacy law to provide its residents with additional privacy protections. One of the main parts about CCPA, it gives Californian consumers more control over their personal data. Especially, it has the ability to opt out of the sale of their data. I mean, GDPR does the same thing, but CCPA tailors these rights specifically to Californian residents. Now, let's talk about cookies. Cookies are small pieces of data that websites store on your browser when you visit them. They have various purposes, right? They're basically collected to enhance your browsing experience, remembering your login credentials, and mostly giving you personalized content. And cookies play a significant role in the context of GDPR and CCPA. These regulations requires to inform users about their cookie usage through understandable cookie policies, pop-up notifications. Most of the websites have a pop-up which tells you something like, by using this website, you agree to our use of cookies. We use cookies to provide you with a great experience and to help our website run effectively, or something like that. And you either accept it or you deny it, or you learn more. So basically, cookies can collect data about your online behavior, which website you're visiting, the links you click, your preferences. They're mostly harmless, and they're only there to provide you with a more personalized experience. But some third-party cookies are used for tracking and advertising purposes, and that can definitely raise privacy concerns. So when you have these regulations in place, users have the right to control their cookie preferences and decide how their data is utilized for marketing or tracking purposes. Imagine you wake up one day and you have all these news headlines that are telling you that the platform that you use on a day-to-day basis has been hacked, and all millions of user accounts, including yours, have had their personal information exposed. In such a case, sensitive data like your email, password, even credit card information can end up in the wrong hands. Cyber criminals can sell this information on the dark web, potentially leading to identity theft or financial fraud. Data breaches not only harm individuals, but it can also have various severe consequences for the businesses involved. They may face hefty fines, lawsuits, a loss of trust from the customers, which is very hard to recover from. So how do we protect customer data? Any of the applications or websites should have a very clear and simple privacy policy that explains what data they're collecting, why they're collecting it, how they'll be using it, and you should be asked for your consent before any data is collected. Behind the scenes, what happens is this app or the website should be using encryption to protect your data. So what's encryption? Encryption essentially turns your data into an unreadable code that only authorized parties can decipher, making it much harder for hackers to access your information. Another important part is trust and transparency. When you know that a company is open and honest about its data policies and practices, it builds a sense of trust. For example, let's say that Netflix or big streaming companies are collecting data from you. If they do that only for the sake of improving your viewing recommendations, that's fine. But if they start collecting that to sell to other third parties, that may not be fine. And you're more likely to continue using the streaming service because of your feel of data being handled responsibly. Data privacy and ethics are not just buzzwords, but really big regulations, really big principles that really protects everyone's data, and more than just that. So what does this have to do with marketing analytics? If you thought about that, good. So analytics involves collecting and interpreting data to make informed decisions. And in marketing, this means understanding customer behaviors, preferences, and trends, which is why regulations like GDPR and CCPA is so important, because marketers must be careful about the data that they're collecting and analyzing, and they have to make sure that it's done ethically and legally. Marketers have to perform robust analytics, but this sometimes means anonymizing data, where personal identifiers are removed, making sure that individual users cannot be directly traced, and also sometimes relying on aggregated data trends rather than individual user data. Beyond just legal compliance, there's also an ethical aspect to consider, which means that you cannot manipulate data in a way that misleads consumers or makes unfair assumptions about them. Marketers should use data to enhance customer experiences and relationships, and that's just all that they have to focus on. It's very important to remember that consumers are very aware of their data rights, and building trust and relationships is actually much easier when marketers understand that privacy is a big deal to consumers, and you can actually use that to create better relationships. One of the main things that marketers can do is data minimization and purpose limitation, which is nothing but collecting only the data necessary for a given marketing purpose and using it strictly for that purpose. This aligns with the principle of data minimization and purpose limitation, and also the key aspects of data protection regulations. If you go on anushakhannan.com, one of the first things that pops up is a chatbot. And the chatbot will also tell you, hey, I'm collecting your email address just for the purpose of this chat, and you will not be added to my email marketing list, which I think is very important for you to tell someone that, because not everybody wants to receive your newsletters. Not everybody wants to look at the promotions that you're offering. Not everybody wants to sign up to your weekly updates. So I think it's important for companies and organizations and even individual bloggers and everybody to give people the option to choose what they want to receive, how they want their data to be used, and what they don't want. Data privacy is definitely presenting a lot of challenges, especially now in terms of analytics, but it also has a lot of opportunities for marketers to build deeper trust with their audience. That's all for today. Hope you found it useful. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email me at tmw@anushakhannan.com. Follow me on LinkedIn to never miss my journey, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.